Major new developments this morning. Russia claiming it may have killed one of the most wanted terrorists in the world, the leader of ISIS, Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi. The Russian Defense Ministry says that it has investigated reports that Baghdadi was among those killed in an airstrike on an ISIS command post in Syria. The U.S. says it cannot confirm those reports right now, and there is quite a bit of skepticism among experts about these claims. But this hour, the U.S. officials have confirmed that Russia conducted strikes on the day they say Baghdadi may have been killed. This morning, the Russian Defense Ministry released these images claiming to show the aftermath of the strike in Raqqa. An important bit of context here from Pentagon correspondent Barbara Starr, though. Russia tends to use unguided weapons, and these images appear, from what she's hearing from folks at the Pentagon, appear to show a very precise airstrike. All of that in context, let me bring in two people who can talk a lot about this and much more. General Stanley McChrystal is here. He's a former commander of all U.S. and international forces in Afghanistan and a senior fellow with Yale University. Chris Fussell is here, a former Navy SEAL officer who served alongside General McChrystal and is a managing partner at McChrystal Group. Also, Chris is the author of a new book, One Mission: How Leaders Build a Team of Teams, and General McChrystal was kind enough to write the foreword. I was not invited to write the foreword. Great to see you both. Thank you so much for coming in. I want to get to the book, and I have a lot of questions about it in just 1 second. On the news of the day, on these claims from Russia that they say they may have taken out al-Baghdadi, there's clearly a lot of skepticism, General. Do you believe the Russians on this?
Well, I don't know if it's true. It almost doesn't matter. It's important to take out a leader like al-Baghdadi, but it's not sufficient. It won't change ISIS demonstrably. ISIS is an idea that's franchised itself, and so it's a little bit self-deception for any of us to suddenly celebrate and say, okay, now the problem will go away.
But still a significant symbolic victory, Chris?
I believe so. I mean, continuing to pursue the leadership inside of these networks is always going to be critical. But I think to Stan's point, if you hang your hat just on taking out the leadership in a network, that doesn't really work because there is no top-down leadership. They're all integrated, so you have to continue to keep pressure on the entire network.
And that's kind of the point that ISIS has wanted all along, that decentralized structure. Another bit of news is that in Afghanistan, we do know now that the president has given over authority on troop numbers over to the Pentagon, over to General Mattis. And the Associated Press today is reporting that they are likely to be adding an additional 4,000 troops there. Is that enough to turn the tide, Chris?
Well, it's really hard to say from this optic. I think what's most important is allowing those on the ground to really understand a clear end state that they're trying to achieve. So numbers are arbitrary if you don't really have that end state in mind.
Do we have it now? Do we have, is it clear the mission in Afghanistan now so many years in?
I don't know that it's clear the people of Afghanistan right now, and that's the most critical part of an insurgency. So we have to make sure that we're having that right dialogue with the local populations.
What's your view in general of the president giving over the responsibility on troop movements to General Mattis, additional troop numbers? Is that shirking responsibility?
Well, I think it's important that he give troop number responsibility to Secretary Mattis, but not the decision, because to put more troops in after a long period of decreasing is a policy change for America. It is deciding we are going to push the clock further, we're going to stay involved longer, we are going to engage the American people and the Afghan people. That's a presidential level decision that he has to own.
On the book, One Mission, Chris, how can you apply what's learned on the battlefield to another industry, another field? Every organization is different. How what you learn on the battlefield, can that apply to CNN or running the country even?
Well, every organization is different, every space is different, but we're all wrestling with one similar issue now, which is the information age. We're all connected in a way, and we can move information and ideas at a speed that would have been incomprehensible 20 years ago. We experienced this in the early days of the fight, post-2001. As the insurgency in Iraq started to grow, and we realized this is a connected network of individual actors that can move at light speed. So under General McChrystal's leadership, they changed the way that the organization was run as a globally distributed network to match that speed. Some version of that is playing out in almost every industry right now. So the big structures can and should remain in place, but you have to be comfortable as a leader integrating the ideas that allow networks to move so quickly.
And General, you've written about the importance of empowering everyone in an organization, right? But this is about leadership. Can you give me your honest assessment of the leadership of President Trump right now?
Well, I'm not up close to it, but I think it's important that we build a team. And right now what we see is a fair amount of dysfunction in Washington, wider than just in the administration. But that's really important. If we don't get the pieces connecting, then it's going to be hard to have competent leadership.
You clearly both work very well in the battlefield together, but I was sitting here thinking about this book and thinking about talking to you today. How was the relationship different, Chris, getting from the battlefield and sitting across the kitchen table with General and trying to write a book together? How did that feel?
Well, it's neat. I mean, we've known each other for 10 years.
Right.
When we first met, I was probably 6 layers down in the military structure. But General McChrystal at that time was a soldier's leader, and he was part of the task force. So everyone developed close relationships. Ours has deepened over the years, obviously. I still have a hard time not saying sir, but you get over that at a certain point. We teach together now. We work together in the McChrystal group, so we spend a lot of time together. So eventually you become more friends and partners.
You still call him sir. I think it's
That's right.
probably valid. I'll call you both sir. Great to see you both.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very, very much for coming in.
Appreciate it.